story tonight on India Upfront is really, viewers, a national talking point. Are madrasas stopping meritorious Muslim children from becoming doctors and engineers? Is an education devoid of science and math holding them back from a bright future? Is it a violation of the children's right to deprive them of modern education? As per the Chief Minister of Assam, it is. Himanta Biswa Sarma, never one to shy away from a controversy, contends that the word madrasa should cease to exist. For him, this term stands for depriving children of their right to choose their future by pushing them into the dark ages. Listen in to Himanta Biswa Sarma as he expounds on why the word madrasa must not even exist in the Indian educational lexicon.
भाई साहब ये मद्रासा शब्द ही विलुप्त हो जाना चाहिए। जब तक ये मद्रासा दिमाग में घूमते रहेगा तब तक बच्चा कभी डॉक्टर इंजीनियर नहीं बन सकता है। अगर बच्चा को आप स्कूल में जाने का समय आप पूछ लेता है कि बेटा तुम मद्रासा जा रहा है, तुम जुनाब बनेगा, इस रास्ते से तुम डॉक्टर नहीं बनेगा, तो कोई बच्चा मद्रासा नहीं जाएगा। मद्रासा में तो दाखिल किया जाता है वायलेटिंग ह्यूमन राइट्स, किसलिए वो रास्ता बंद हो जाता है। तो आप जरूर कुरान पढ़ाइए, उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन सबसे ज्यादा पढ़ाइए साइंस, मैथ्स, बायोलॉजी, बोटानी, जियोलॉजी। तो इसीलिए मद्रासा सब विलुप्त हो जाना चाहिए, नॉर्मल एजुकेशन होना चाहिए। और घर में आप खूब आपका धर्म पोथी पढ़ाइए, पूरा 2 to 3 घंटा धर्म पोथी पढ़ाइए, लेकिन स्कूल में ऐसा ही शिक्षा दीजिए जो शिक्षा से आपका बेटा डॉक्टर और इंजीनियर बन सकता है, प्रोफेसर बन सकता है, साइंटिस्ट बन सकता है। जो आप बोल रहे हैं मुसलमान लोग कुरान कंठस्थ कर रहा है तो इसलिए उनमें बहुत ज्यादा मेरिट होता है। ये सारा मुसलमान भाई हिंदू था, कोई ऐसे मुसलमान ये धरती में नहीं आया, भारत का धरती में सब हिंदू ही था।
Himanta's party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, has wholly endorsed him. BJP says the choice is now very simple. And let's look at that 3 window. India needs more Nikhat Zareens, not a place that turns out hate preachers like Zakir Naik. That's what the Bharatiya Janata Party has said when a large number of opposition parties accused Himanta Biswa Sarma of trying to target Muslims, belittle them, their children, and of course, spout some sort of Islamophobia. Listen in, viewers.
You have the practitioners of vote bank politics and cynical Islamophobia lobby that wants Muslims to be trapped forever in the prism of madrasas and identity. They want more Zakir Naiks, whereas the country needs more Nikhat Zareens, and that is what Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma is advocating for.
And look at this little kid who is hardly 10 years talking about death to other communities. How does it happen? I think it's simple. Radicalization in the madrasas where these kids are mandatorily sent, and of course from there to their houses, radicalization.
मदरसों के में जो एक ब्रीडिंग ग्राउंड है, यहाँ पर जो है कम्युनलिज्म पढ़ाया जाता है, यहाँ पर दूसरे धर्मों को नीचे दिखाने की बात जो होती है।
Now here are some hard facts, and on this show I always present these hard facts for you viewers so that you can get closer to the truth, you can cut through the spin, the rhetoric. These hard facts support the argument for doing away with madrasas entirely. This is an NCPCR report that I am quoting out of, 2021 NCPCR report, viewers. What does it say? An increasing reliance on religious scriptures in madrasas. The strategy to dictate child's learning atmosphere is also being embarked upon. Students deprived of facilities and entitlements. Books without photographs hurts quality pedagogy. It goes on, viewers. Parda, same-sex teacher limitation prevents diverse teaching. Students deprived of co-educational classes. This is very important, viewers. Also, the RT Act for these children becomes a depriving tool. So it's going in closer to the elements of the RT Act, which have, of course, been now brought in, viewers, to modernize education across board for all children, cutting across castes and creeds. Results in discrimination in accessing fundamental rights. And viewers, let me also give you some statistics. These are referenced from the Sachar Commission report, which was once put out. And you can make out the disparity between the learning abilities of Muslim children and, of course, those that are going to normal schools. Let's play those out for you, and they're coming up on your screens. Why oppose madrasa reform is the big line on top. Well, because Muslims' literacy rate is less than the national average by as much as almost 5%, viewers. This is according to 2011 census. Children aged between 6 and 14 who've never attended formal school overall is 4.5%, but in Muslims it's 8.7%. Higher education enrollment overall, look at the numbers, almost half of the national average. So 19% of all that graduate from school pursue higher education, but only 11% in Muslims. So clearly a large number of those students are coming out of madrasas and they are not capable of scaling up to the requirements. So these are some very practical issues that need to be contended with. And of course, viewers, many madrasas have been reformed by different governments, but somehow this has been bogged down in conversations surrounding communalism. That anyone who talks about madrasa reform, scrapping madrasas, etc., as being communal is actually against Muslim interests. Let's open this up and let's ask some basic questions. Let me first begin with former Chancellor of MANUU, Firoz Bhakt Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed, straightforward question to you. Do you agree with what Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma is saying in principle? He says, read and learn the Quran at home, no problem, study it for 3 hours, 4 hours, but go to formal schools where modern education is imparted. What do you say?
All right, Mr. Shivshankar, I hope I am audible to you.
Yes, sir. Very clearly.
All right. Thank you so much. You know, I believe, yesterday I heard Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma. It was a function to celebrate 75 years of Panjanya and organizer, where he said, where he categorically said, in fact, he quoted the vision and mission of our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. You know what he said? What he meant was, I want to see in each and every hand of a Muslim, in one hand the Holy Quran, in the other computer. This is what he repeated in other words. And I was present there, and he is a person who is well-meaning, who wants to bring the Muslim community into the mainstream of education, something which the Muslim community is badly lacking. And it is because of, people like, Owaisi and company who just have been using these Muslims as their vote banks. Maybe it is Congress, it is the left front, or maybe other opposition parties. They have always never bothered about the education of Muslims. And I with all my heart and soul, I am saying not only the Muslims of Assam, but the Muslims of India and the entire world should strengthen the hands of Himanta Biswa Sarma, who is trying to create this vision and mission of education among Muslims. And lastly, last 5 seconds, Mr. Shivshankar, I would also request the government to, Mr. Himanta Biswa said that he wants to obliterate the word madrasa. Let him not say that. Let him say that I want to modernize madrasas, or I want to give the name as modern madrasa. Slowly and gradually, the name can be obliterated, because Muslim community will object to that, and we do not want that this good work which he wants to begin should be nipped in the bud. So let him begin with the modernization of madrasas. One interesting thing last time, when I told the madrasa students that you open your fast by khajur, by date, and date contains calcium, they were really very enthusiastic about it. So madrasa students who can learn a thick book like Holy Quran by heart, 1000 pages and more, this talent should be tapped for a progressive reason, for promoting patriotism. And I also, lastly, I would also add that like what is done in UP madrasas, they should begin with national anthem. In the same way, I request Mr. Sarma, he should also begin the madrasas with the opening of Jana Gana Man. I believe, it is up to him.
Well, this is very interesting. And let me also tell you, Mr. Bhakt, while you say that there should be a gradual sort of move towards calling them modern madrasas and then go on to obliterate the name madrasa altogether, the Assam government will also be shutting down Sanskrit tolls, viewers. And this is, or Sanskrit schools. So there is no discrimination in this policy. Yet, when you read the reactions that are coming from the Congress party, other elements of the polity with regards to the left, the PDP, they're saying that this is an RSS agenda, destroying Muslim culture and religion, forgetting that Himanta Biswa Sarma is actually a long-standing congressman who joined the BJP. Udit Raj said these are bids to divide Hindus and Muslims. Rahman Khan of the Congress says there's nothing wrong.
Positive which is done by this government, they say RSS agenda. Okay. DHP agenda.
So let me bring in Danish Qureshi on this point. You heard Mr. Bhakt Ahmed. What is the problem, Mr. Danish Qureshi, if madrasas are either modernized or entirely, like Sanskrit schools are being shut down in Assam, shut down? What's the big deal? What's the problem? Learn the Quran at home.
Rahul, I want to say that I think there is nothing to do with madrasa. The primary situation of the country is after the lockdown. Number of students have dropped out from the schools due to lack of they were not in condition to pay the school fees. Each and every city, each and every town, each and every village is not left against this panic. Government is not working on that. If we talk about Gujarat, more than 60% families are suffering. Those who had not paid yet the total fees from the day of lockdown till the last situation. Now, instead of focusing on them, that is the main problem, that the mainstream education system has been disturbed due to this lockdown era. Problem of the solution should be done by the state and the federal government. Rather than that, they are talking about the modernization of madrasa. Go and do the modernization of the madrasa, no problem. But the drop ratio due to the pay of fees, which has been increased after the lockdown, what will be the solution of that?
Anish Qureshi, this would affect all students.
That will be supported by the government.
Okay, Nupur Sharma wants to come in. Nupur Sharma wants to come in of the BJP, respond to Danish Qureshi. This debate is being set up very well by Mr. Bhakt Ahmed. No response has come from Danish Qureshi to what Mr. Bhakt Ahmed said. He said that parties like the MIM that Danish Qureshi belongs to, fearmonger. They want to enslave Muslims, keep them ignorant so that they can use them as vote banks, etc., etc. Danish Qureshi, that was the charge. You didn't answer the charge. You went on some other tangent. Nonetheless, Nupur Sharma responds to you.
Good evening, Rahul, to you, to co-panelists, and so also to your viewers. There must be some reason that the Honorable Guwahati High Court has actually upheld the decisions taken just in the recent past by the Himanta Biswa Sarma government in Assam. The fact is the repealing act has been upheld, and the Honorable High Court of Assam finds no reason to interfere in his decisions to actually withdraw funding and not sponsor anyway under the constitution. If we were actually a secular state, the government should not be sponsoring and helping and encouraging religious text knowledge. Rather, the schools they should be funding should be those schools who are completely involved in educating normal STEM education system, in ensuring that the pupils come out well read enough to be applying for jobs and sitting for competitive exams. Now this is the sole reason why obviously the High Court has actually upheld his decisions. Now point number 2, and more importantly, only last year the Allahabad High Court has actually noticed the Uttar Pradesh government, and remember under Yogi 1.0 Rahul, in the first year itself Yogi Adityanath ji actually cancelled registration of 16,000 plus fake madrasas who were working as, say, madrasas under some, and they were protected by Trust Act, because most of these properties come under Waqf and they are protected by trust laws. And herein you had fraudulent registration of 16,000 plus madrasas who were taking all possible benefits of the policies at large, but did not even have a principal or a teacher or even pupils. The fact is that in Uttar Pradesh itself, there has been a reduction in the number of students going to madrasas, and this has become a cause of worry. In fact, the Allahabad High Court also wants to know if there are women. Allow me to please finish. Please allow me to finish. You can speak when you are spoken to. The Allahabad High Court has actually issued notice to the Uttar Pradesh government seeking information as to whether these madrasas, comply with Article 28 of the Indian Constitution, as well as how many women are actually allowed or not. Now, herein you had Mr. Danish Qureshi, if I'm not wrong, he came up with a figure of 60%. I want to see the news article if he has any, because you can just throw a figure in the air. I would like to inform him the Gujarat Regulatory Fee Department of the Gujarat government has ensured throughout the pandemic time that there is a 25% reduction in private school fees. So when he is throwing numbers like 60%, back them up with evidence, because I do have on paper that the Gujarat government took a decision when the pandemic hit so that it doesn't actually pinch the private households so much and students continue to study. They took a complete 25% cut on school fees. So come out with numbers which actually are backed by facts.
Nupurji, after the reduction of 25% also.
The government should not be teaching.
Now have a patient to listen.
The government of...
Nupurji.
Show me. No, I have not finished.
Complete.
I have not finished, and even the host hasn't, the anchor hasn't asked you to come in. So don't lose patience, please.
Rahul Shivshankar called
even after the 25%, please show me the article. No.
So I'm telling you that only don't.
And I would urge
Danish, one second. Okay, just both of you. 1 second. Okay, so let me get.
Show the article.
Okay, let's get Danish Qureshi.
Show the article.
Okay, Nupur Sharma is asking for proof.
Okay,
Danish Qureshi, because the charge that has been made by Mr. Ahmed is that you people, the MIM, parties like that and others, use Muslims at vote banks. We have the Sachar Commission report. The Sachar Commission report pointed out very clearly that the so-called secular parties such as yours, the Samajwadi Party, the Congress, did very little for Muslim uplift. This is a fact. The Sachar Committee report is out there. So you tell me, you oppose something. Let me also ask you, Mr. Qureshi, tomorrow, when the demand is made, let's introduce the Gita in some schools. You say it's communal. Ghulam Nabi Azad says we should not mix religion in education. NCP says propagating just one faith is wrong.
First of all,
Mr. Bhakt Ahmed is agreeing with me. You're not giving out any sort of response based on any facts.
Okay,
You're just generalizing.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Respond, sir. Respond.
Okay, Rahul. Okay, Rahul. First of all, any political party is not dependent on the certificate of the Mr. Bhakt. So please don't tell him not to give certificate about any political party. We are not having... just a minute. Now, second thing is that Nupurji was saying that show me the proof.
Answer
why? First of all, why 20%? Sorry?
He says, don't get personal.
I'm answering the question of Nupur Sharma ji. Now, Nupur Sharma ji told that 25% of fees has been deducted by the state government of Gujarat.
Very rightly said that you have no response to this genuine question of mine. Tell me why have you given the begging bowl
Rahul
to
what
Muslims,
said is right or wrong. I will reply to him. I will reply to that. But the basic, what is the problem with you people?
Like no other party has done it. And you blame BJP, you blame RSS because you have done nothing for the last 55, 60 years. And let me tell you, these madrasa students, they have one of the highest caliber compared to other students. And we want that their talent should be tapped for this good governance.
from
They
the
should
private
become
sector.
professors. They should become
Because the
players.
situation has
Okay,
become
we can't have a-
like the
we can't
Jamul
speak
Islam of
over each
Kashmir.
other.
Is not
Please,
enough.
like
Please,
Hazrat
please.
Those who are
Or maybe-
studying.
Let me
Those
step
who are
in here.
studying in the school.
But
Now
people
the
like
thing
you
is,
have been
now the thing
communalizing,
is
you have been
that if
politicizing.
anybody,
Danish
now
Qureshi-
Prime Minister is having a
RSS and
dream
BJP,
that a Muslim has
in
a
fact,
computer
these
and a
parties are
Quran in
much
his hand.
better.
I
It's
think
Congress
India
that has
needs
harmed- that has
first of all
harmed the
sufficient
cause of
electricity
Muslim
to
community
operate the
for such
computer
a-
or laptop.
Sir,
Did we have
sir,
that?
Danish
We are not
Qureshi,
having
please,
the
let me
infrastructure
step
of
in
that.
here.
I don't think that this is
Let
more
me
than
step
any
in
jumla.
here. Let me step in here. Let me step in here. Are you saying, sir? One second. Are you saying
And
that
then
thousands?
become personal.
1 minute, please.
You have no answer. You say we
I'm not
don't
going to
want
allow
birth
everyone to
certificate.
speak over
Who is
each
giving
other.
you certificate?
I'm giving everyone 5 seconds and I'm lowering everybody's faders. It's not right. Please. Okay. Now, Danish Qureshi, what kind of argument? No, Danish Qureshi, don't speak over me. What kind of argument are you making? Are you saying that people who go to madrasas are going in the darkness? They're also studying somewhere. They're also being state funded. Why should they be state funded to teach religious education? It's simple as that. Number two, you know that there are disparities. You know I'm reading out to you the NCPCR report. Obscurantist education is being given. The products are coming out with a very tunnel vision of the world. They are not in consonance with modern times. What is your problem with modernity? Why do you always make it about an RSS, some sort of agenda? I can't understand this. The Chief Minister of Assam wants to shut down Sanskrit schools too. What's wrong with that? He's being very, very upfront.
If anybody don't have any problem with the Sanskrit school, they can have. But if anybody wants to educate in madrasa, what is problem with you? If you have any problem that this is not modern, go and give the infrastructure to modernize that. But instead of modernizing that, this is a problematic.
A syllabus is the syllabus. You can't modernize, sir. The holy book. Can you modernize the holy book? You tell me. Can you rewrite the holy book? I'm asking you.
No, this is not a.
No, this is what do you mean?
Subjects can be added, na.
No. Why? Why? Then add the Gita also.
No. What
let's
you
have,
mean?
No,
I
let's
can't
have Gita
understand that.
also. Let's have Gita also.
What you want?
No, then what is your problem? When we say that let's have the Gita, then you have a problem. You said you see the country is a secular country.
Rahul, minority education system. Minority education system has its own rights. Tell me, is the madrasa
to hell with
to have a madrasa is illegal in India?
We want to do away with these two words from the Constitution: majority and minority. The words like majority and minority have divided the house. These words have divided the nation. Do away with majority and minority. Please, spare Muslims. Let them fight for themselves. We don't need people like you.
First of all, after that we will talk on that.
Can I ask you?
Listen to me.
Danish Qureshi,
First of all,
if you want to teach the Quran, if you want to teach the Quran, if you want to give religious education, Mr. Qureshi, a very simple question, and also Mr. Saad Sherwani, let me ask you, Ishkaran Bhandari and Ratan Sharda are also listening very peacefully. Let me bring them into this conversation also. Ratan Sharda, I'll put it to you like this. Okay, modernized madrasas, state-funded modern madrasas will also teach the Quran and they will also teach computers. Now, in my view, what kind of secular democracy are we trying to build here? Why should my state taxpayer money go to exclusively teach the tenets of one religion? Then let's open it up. Ratan Sharda. Are we making a mockery of our constitution, of our commitment to secularism? Ishkaran Bhandari, I want you to come in on the legal question. Saad Sherwani, on this bizarreness. Yes, Mr. Ratan Sharda.
Rahul, Danish Qureshi is the person who mocked at Shivling and then deleted the tweet. So this is the kind of mindset these people hold. So I cannot hold them responsible for whatever kind of statement they made. He did not speak about 60% proof that Nupur asked. So he can just keep on shouting. Figures are cold figures, much more louder than the shouts these people make. Now tell me, when you talk of madrasa, what kind of people we create? They say earth is flat. They say sun goes around the earth. This is taught. This is taught very openly, and this is the modern mind. And these people have been isolated from the mainstream. They are cocooned in their own world. They break out of the mainstream Indian politics, Indian citizenship, and they become isolated, exclusivist, because that is the kind of education they get. And look at you talked about the crime figures, also talk of the unemployment. I am very sure if you look at the unemployment figures, The people who come out of madrasa are unemployable because they will know only Urdu, they only religious text, they know nothing about the modern science, modern mathematics, nothing. And why should government finance non-secular institution? Tell me, does right to nurture minoritism from the constitution stretch that much that you can ask, you can demand money from the state and teach you that you don't belong to a state, but you are pan-national? If you talk of Ummah, you don't talk of nationalism because you oppose nationalism. These are the kind of things that disturb me. Then there are no girls. What about gender justice? So again, whether it's gender justice, whether it's homophobic nature, whether it's LGBT, all this education is totally outdated 7th century education. You can teach a religious text, but you cannot make people zombie into believing just one book, one religion, and exclusivist of everything else. This is my problem. And they want to modernize. Why they ask government to modernize? You modernize, then demand secular funding from the school. You cannot demand money for the madrasa. Then you say, आप इसको modernize करो, भैया modernize करो, government पैसे देगी. Why do you want money for your religious text, for religious education? And you are creating, as I said, people who cannot be employed. Then you talk about unemployment. They cannot talk to people all over the India. They have their own world.
And there is very little oversight. Nupur Sharma talked about some statistics from Uttar Pradesh. Let me tell you, after Assam, it's Uttarakhand's government that has come out, and this is news just breaking, orders an inspection of 425 madrasas. State government writes to the education department, make a list of unauthorized madrasas. God alone what is being taught in these madrasas back there. Ishkaran Bhandari, and I want to bring in Saad Sherwani. Ishkaran Bhandari.
Rahul, let's start. In India, in Assam, we law passed put the government to fund madrasa. That was the perversion of secularism. We should have debated it in 1990s. But nobody debated it. We were a nation where Somnath Mandir could not be rebuilt by the government fund. But madrasas teaching exclusively to a certain community, dogma of that community would get funded from the state. Or Himanta, I must compliment, even as the education minister of Assam, he said that, and as the chief minister, he did it. He was very clear-headed. He said the state will not fund madrasas. That was challenged in the High Court. The Honorable High Court upheld it. State funds cannot be used for religious purposes. That is the basic of secularism. So if we are having a debate on secularism, we should understand it means not funding madrasas. Secularism does not mean funding madrasas. That's the basic. Now let me come to the second point of it. It's a very simple point. Name the top 20 politicians, Muslim leaders of this country. कितनों के बच्चे मदरसास में पढ़ते हैं, कितनों के प्राइवेट स्कूल पढ़ते हैं और कितनों के अब्रॉड पढ़ते हैं. That number itself will give a huge input, a huge light would be shown on the fact that why certain people are told send your kids to madrasas, while our kids will study in fancy private schools, boarding schools or abroad. And lastly, putting kids in madrasas where if they come out of it and they are not qualified for private sector, government sector or business with modern education is, as Himanta Biswa Sarma said, a violation of their human rights, because those kids are not choosing to be deprived from being a part of the economic stream when they grow up. A state has to protect the human rights of kids who cannot make the choice themselves. They have to have education which enables them to apply for jobs. That is basic human right and child protection of every government to do.
Saad Sherwani, Ishkaran Bhandari calling out a elemental hypocrisy. He says that Muslim leaders such as yourself will send your own children to foreign institutions, to nice schools, private education, but you don't mind the others going to madrasas. Is that true, Saad Sherwani?
So, Rahul, I find it quite amusing that all of these people yelling on your channel, talking about madrasas. I don't know how many people they know whose children go to madrasas or have passed out from madrasas. This is a situation that I deal with day in and day out. I know lots of people whose children go to madrasas, who have graduated from madrasas themselves. And let's look at the reality. 90% of the madrasa students in India belong to the very poor families.
You are talking with such authority.
Who can't really afford to send their children anywhere else.
No, give some figures.
Yes. Let me finish.
You have not researched and studied it.
I didn't interject when you spoke. I did not interject when you spoke. I did not interject when you spoke. If you want to interject, you may as well answer my question and continue with the debate just by yourself, because you seem to be very good at doing that.
I will do that.
So
Sherwani,
I can either finish, or they can try and finish. They can try and finish my sentence.
Okay, you finish your sentence. You finish your sentence.
There are a number of people. Sure. Let me finish. I know a lot of people who, when given a choice, would rather go to a school than send their children to a madrasa, for the very simple reason that they cannot afford to do so. Most of these people, like I said, come from the poorest of poor. They belong to poor families, and I'm sure my experienced colleagues on this debate know as well that there are even some poor non-Muslim families who send their children to madrasas. I mean, there have been many reports over the years where these children have topped the schools, where they've done very well in the madrasas as opposed to the Muslim students. Now, it's not what you say, but where you say it and how you say it. Sometimes that's more important. Coming to an event organized by the RSS, where the Chief Minister is saying that madarsa should be shut down, the word madarsa should be removed, the UP Chief Minister coming and talking about how namaz is not being offered on the streets anymore. It's making a point, making a particular point, and talking about this whole politics of language of division and hatred and polarization that the BJP is very good at, has always been very good at.
Again, you're changing the goalpost, because this declaration of putting madrasas and please let me put the facts on the table.
I'm not changing the goalpost.
There is a point here. This declaration that you are referring to. Hang on, 1 second. Can you allow me? Can you allow me, Mr. Sherwani? See, you said that
he's trying to be vitriolic.
1 second. You said that that where it's made, the decision or the announcement matters more, perhaps, than the intention. Right? That's what you said, quote unquote. Now let me tell you, what he said was a follow-up of a policy that he's already implemented in his state, at a state level, of getting rid of all Sanskrit tolls as well as madrasas. So he stands for this. He wants modernization, and he's not stopping. Excuse me, Mr. Sherwani, he's not stopping anyone from getting a religious education. He says, do it at home. Go to private, schools or colleges or whatever you want to, or tutorials, and learn there. He's not stopping you from accessing your Quranic wisdom. He's only saying, let's have modern schools. And thirdly, are you saying that there are no Hindu poor children? That there are no other poor except only Muslim poor who have to go to these madrasas?
I'm not.
Come on, Saad Sherwani, these are not.
You yourself.
These are not.
You yourself started off.
Let me bring in Mr.
Yes, Rahul, I'm answering a question. Okay, you yourself started off your program by saying that the enrollment rate at primary school levels for Muslim children are a lot less. That is the truth. And I for one am not against the modernization of madrasas at all.
Actually not, because you never went to a madrasa, and I'm sure your children don't go to a madrasa, do they? Did you go to a madrasa, sir?
Why would they? I don't want to send them to a madrasa.
There you go. So it doesn't matter. You sit here and argue. Why would you want to send
them? Going to madrasa, get a proper education.
Wow. This is fantastic.
Ishkal Bhandari is going to madrasa. Give me 1 minute.
I think people missed where I said that people who have a choice to send their children to normal schools will not send them to madrasas. You completely ignore that because you choose to hear what you want to hear.
Let me answer.
It's that simple.
That is why, Rahul, I started by saying the hypocrisy. Name 5 big leaders. Somebody has become a barrister from London. Somebody has done major studies in UK or US. And I'm talking about the most prominent families. Yes, they don't want the new generation of poor kids to become doctors, barristers, and to become architects because they do not want empowerment. They don't want informed.
Firoz Bakht Ahmed.
They want a vote bank.
Okay, they want a vote bank. Firoz Bakht Ahmed, respond to Saad Sherwani.
Of course we do.
Thank you, friend. Let me just speak for a couple of seconds.
To give provisions to these children to go to the other schools.
Just 20 seconds. Just 20 seconds. All my worthy friends. I will just take 30 seconds. Now, Rahul ji, I heard my friend. He talked very genuinely about these madrasas. This is true that these madrasas are run on shoestring budget. Now the madrasas which were actually modernized in the state of Rajasthan, in Jaipur, there is one place known as Ramgarh. In Ramgarh there is one madrasa, Madrasa Jamiatul Hidayah. There they modernized the madrasa. They taught English, Hindi, Sanskrit, mathematics, geography, science, everything. Now the children, some children of that madrasas, they are in Grindlay's Bank, they are working in UNO, in USA, in the office, and they are having some wonderful jobs. Why? Because these children who actually were exposed to modern education, religious plus secular brand of education, they had broken all these boundaries, and now they are reckoned with a lot of respect and regard.
Absolutely.
So my humble request
let me also tell you, viewers, last I checked, and I'm happy to be corrected, that primary education in India is free in government schools. So you can send children. I don't know this argument about the poorest of the poor must only go to madrasas to study, or poor Muslim people can only afford to send their children to madrasas because, you know, that's where they get free education. When the government provides till up to the primary level, they even give them midday meals.
For all the children who go to these madrasas to regular schools, I'll be the first person who
this is the problem. Viewers, you just heard Saad Sherwani saying, I don't want to send I never went, and I don't want to send my children to madrasas, but it's okay. I'll send them. I'll send other people's children to madrasas. Well, viewers, look. Yes,
no, I never said that.
Yes.
Rahul, you are
none of them would be interested.
I never said that.
One second, Rahul. Barring one, Mr. Azim Premji, people like Saad Sherwani would never be interested in actually building an actual school, an educational school. He threw some number like 90%. You have to really look for that lone diamond as to how many people who come out of madrasas
I'm sorry, but my family does run a school where children study for free. So
one second, I'm not Charu, I'm Nopur. You should know who you're debating with.
Look, let's not make this personal. Let's not make this personal. The fact is, viewers, when madrasa modernization was envisaged, even that was opposed. And today, Mr. Buck Khan will tell us that even when they decided that many syllabuses in madrasas must undergo an overhaul, even that was opposed at that time. Today we can sit back in satisfaction and say some modern madrasas are doing a great job in giving both secular as well as Quranic education, but at that time this was also viewed with suspicion. So change, viewers, is opposed because the aim is something completely different, and what is thrown is, oh, this is Hindutva, this is Hindutva. It's not modernity, it's Hindutva. I'm moving on, viewers, because what I'm going to show you today